Hey everyone, I am Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden, and I am joined here by Pastor Scott, who is the founder, CEO, and president of Matthews Hope, and also Shelley Bradford, who is the vice president and executive director. We are on episode 22 of No BS, Straight Talk, No BS with Matthews Hope. Today we're going to talk about the homeless crisis and politics. So before we get into politics, which this shall get interesting, so stay tuned. We're in a new location today. Can you tell me a little bit about Trinity Oaks?
Yeah, Trinity Oaks of Matthews Hope is actually a venue that we have that will be used for weddings and concerts and things like that. Will help us raise some funds for the ministry. We have a sanctuary that fits 400, and we're actually sitting in an area that's going to be for the groomsmen to prepare for their death walk, the walk of shame, whatever you care to call it. And
or if we're not having a wedding and we're having like concerts, this would also be the green room.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. So it should be cool. We're kind of excited by the way it's coming together, and
That's nice.
We're getting a lot of people talking to us about it right now, so that's cool.
And we are in Brevard County, so for those of you who are in Orange County being like, oh, this is exciting, you can still come, but we are in Brevard County on that campus.
Yeah.
And you guys have made a trip recently to Tallahassee. Shelley, what was the purpose of this trip?
So my purpose was to go and just kind of see how politics work. I grew up listening to Schoolhouse Rock, the little Bill dancing around. I won't be singing for you.
Come on.
And so I really kind of wanted to go and just see how politics work. What does it take to get a bill passed, to get it through, each step? So that's really why I wanted to go, was just to learn what that process was. And we did have more specific reasons, because there are some bills that do actually are going to, affect our homeless people. Okay. So just kind of seeing how that process worked. And I got home and Darren decided to tell me that I should go into politics. And I was like, you're so cute.
Oh. No, did it spark an interest?
No.
But I'm sure it's super helpful to help you guys move forward and intertwine this and hopefully get things moving with action.
Yes.
What was your purpose for this trip?
I wanted to see if they could meet any of my expectations. Okay. And they did.
And what are those expectations? What did you want to accomplish?
Let me just say I set the bar really low. We traveled with the four chambers that cover Brevard County. Okay. So that was kind of cool. It was an opportunity for us to meet and get to know some of those folks on a different level. When you spend a couple of days with folks and you're eating with them and you're talking with them, sitting on a bus for 4.5 hours. But the other part was to be able to advocate for those things that are happening in our community. And what I rediscovered, if you will, is that we need to get our community more involved with what's going on. I watched the Iowa caucuses and all those things over the last few weeks and what have you, and there was this big deal. I think it was Iowa, where they were talking about how they had to get more ballots printed because they had such a great turnout. Wow. That turnout ended up being 15% of the voting population.
Oh my gosh.
So to think that 15% of our population is guiding our country, making decisions, people really need to think about that, because the one power we do have is we can still vote. And if we're not careful, we're going to give that power away as well. I think it's proven in our politics, no matter what side of the coin that you are on, what you think you believe, what you think you know. What I also discovered is that it's really important too, is that when people see a bill that's being presented to become a law, they really need to take the time to read the entire bill.
Yeah.
What happens is people look at that little piece that touches them, or they think touches them, and they ignore what else is going on, and not realizing that maybe there's 10 points in that bill. One of them you're very much in favor for, and you get lost there, but you don't look at the last 9 that are going to be damage to you and your family or your community. And the truth is, what I found in talking to some of the politicians I got to speak to was that they have their own agenda. And that agenda doesn't necessarily represent what I hear the people of our community saying. I myself I don't like any politics. I don't think either one has cornered the market on doing it bad. But because I think you're kinder than I am. Because I'm really disturbed by the things that I've been seeing the last few years and seeing what's coming up. not just the fact that how it's going to affect the homeless, but what people are missing on how it's going to affect everyone. And that's the part I think I'm even more disturbed. The homeless are just going to be the easiest way to get them where they want to go, because rarely is anybody going to stand up for them, because that's not our problem.
Sure.
Right.
Until it's all our problem, which it really is.
Did you guys meet with anyone specific, and what did you guys talk about, or what did you learn?
We actually got to sit down, my particular group got to sit down with Randy Fine,
Okay.
and we also sat down with, I don't want to butcher his name, it's Tyler Sorow, I think is how you say it. And I was a little bit bothered by the fact that the answers they gave were so vague on something that I feel is so important. Now, some people say, well, of course, Scott, you run and founded a homeless outreach. This is going to be your primary concern. And it really isn't. I heard other things that if the general public were aware of and would take the time, less time watching their chosen news channel that's going to affirm to them what they think they believe, and actually try to look at what's going on, I think they would be shocked by some of the things so when I say my expectations were met, I went up there hoping to feel like they really wanted to hear us, and what I discovered is there was no, in my opinion, and people can disagree with me and send me a nastygram, there wasn't really an interest in hearing what we had to ask. In fact, at one point, Fine was asked a question by one of our staff members, and he was unaware of what that bill was. And then went on to say, well, I need to learn more about that. And then the person pointed out the camping part, and he said, oh, the homeless bill.
Correct.
Which is what everybody's been telling us, it's not for the homeless.
Gotcha.
And the room gasped.
The room did gasp.
I mean,
because you wanted to say, Randy, with all due respect, if you see that, I'm hoping to meet with you. You looked really foolish on that one. Because when he said, oh, the homeless bill, that's what we've all been thinking.
Right.
Everybody is telling us that's not what it is.
We've been told over and over again, it is not about the homeless.
Shelley, do you think they're aware of this crisis?
In their own world. No, not really. Not like we are.
Right.
I think in their world, they see homeless people as my family did growing up, not as we see them as they're just people. So no, not really.
I think they're very much out of touch.
Yeah.
I've invited them. I invited them there. I invite them here public again, both of them and any other politician that wants to visit our campus. Each in their way over time, and some this weekend or this week when we were there, was about tying crime to it, which again, statistically, there's nothing to do that. The one thing I will say is that this one particular bill, I think it's 1561, I'd have to go back and look, but the bill, the way it's designed is, on the surface, if you look at it, and they will sell you on this idea, it's to help the homeless. And the challenge is the idea behind it is that it will be illegal anywhere in the state of Florida to camp anywhere in the state of Florida. You could be arrested. Further to say that if a particular county were to go light on that it would give a business owner the opportunity to sue the county for not being more proactive in doing this. Okay. But what they'll tell you when you meet with them is the idea, this is what Tyler said, is the idea is to connect them with services and that, what have you. If those services were available,
And in place.
Yeah. I would say, okay, I can agree with that. To me, it's kind of like if I sit there and tell someone, I'm cutting off your water supply. However, sometime in the future, water will be available across the street, but you can no longer come here. And if you come here, I'm going to arrest you. Okay. Now, if water was available across the street and you say, hey, we no longer have water here, but you'll have to go across the street. If you come back here, there's going to be a problem. I'm on board. Right. I'm on board. But you can't. You got to look at the ripple effect. You got to look at these things, and you got to, our next magazine, Moving Forward magazine that we're working on right now is the criminalization of homelessness. Okay. And specifically for that reason, because they are so out of touch that they really believe they can legislate our way out of homelessness. Yeah. And just recently, WESH 2 News came out that homelessness is up in Central Florida since 2019, 75%.
Can we talk about that? The annual point in time count, is that what that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that, what it is, and is it accurate? What that helps to do?
I don't think it's accurate at all.
I don't think it's
What
close.
is
This
it?
is the first year
'Cause
that
I've never
we've
heard
been
of
in,
that.
Yeah, this is the first year we've been involved in it since I've been with Matthew's Hope. I think we've done it in the past.
Yes,
but
yeah,
this is the
yeah.
first year we've been involved in it. And I think my staff did the best they could.
And what is it?
It is
Like
where
for those
you
of us who
count.
don't know.
It's where you count our homeless.
So it's
people.
like a census,
census.
for
It's like a
the
census.
homeless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And HUD bases the money the HUD supports outreaches with, which we're not part of, but the other outreaches with are based on those numbers. The challenge with that, when we look at the numbers that have been reported, say for Orange County the last few years, if those numbers were right, that means Matthew's Hope is serving all of them.
Wow.
And so that's part of the problem. The other problem is most of the funding that's available, in my opinion, is geared towards hiding the homeless, not necessarily helping the homeless. And there's a big difference.
Yes.
Okay, getting something to where we don't, out of sight, out of mind, is one thing, but actually helping them become independent, self-sufficient, or connecting them with the services they need, whether it's mental health or what have you. You know, I've said in previous episodes that our fastest growing populations right now are due to seniors that have pensions that weren't designed for this economy. I can't tell you, just this past week, we had 2 women over the age of 80, first-time homeless. Those with physical,
to just be homeless.
yeah, first-time homeless. Okay, I'm trying to live in my car. I just got a call from a woman last night that's asking if she can park her vehicle here while she gets the money together to get it repaired, so it doesn't get towed away, because that's her home also. The second group is those with physical and mental disabilities, and I'm not talking about mental illness. That's a category in itself. These are folks, and you know, I think I can say this comfortably in front of Shelley. She has 2 sons that were born with various levels of special abilities, and a lot of those kids, especially those kids that were born with Down syndrome, they didn't live much past their 30s, and they're now living full long lives due to modern medicine. The problem is their caregivers are dying. You know, a great example for Shelley is when her father and mother passed the last couple of years. She's now taking care of her brother also, who's partially blind.
And partially
deaf, and some other issues. And if it weren't for her, it's very likely that her family, that they would be on the streets. And we're seeing that every day. And of course, the housing crisis. You know, everybody talks about not being in favor of rent control. And for the most part, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I also think that you got to sit there and go, wait a minute. You can't make it impossible for the very people who built this community to no longer be able to live in this community. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, it definitely.
I mean, I know you want the pretty people, and I know people like Brian Nelson over in Apopka, the mayor there, said he wants the people coming to his area that can buy the $5 coffee. Stupidest damn thing I've ever heard someone say publicly, Brian. But, you know, and I would take you to task on that every damn time I saw you. Did you hear the group gasp when you said it? So disappointed in that kind of thinking, that good old boy thinking. Okay, we got to change that.
Right.
And the only way that's going to change is when people take a broader look at what the true crisis looks like. But when you look at those families that can no longer afford to get a simple apartment, okay, you've got it for $2,000 apartment is pretty much average now for one bedroom,
For 1 bedroom, yeah.
that you'd want to live in. I'm not talking about fancy, just that you'd want to live in.
Yeah.
Then you have to consider that the property manager require 3 times that in your salary.
Crazy.
So you're $72,000 income. Hell, buy a house. The problem is you're spending so much money renting, you can't buy the house.
You can't even get there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad.
So it's campaign season. Do you hear politicians bringing up homelessness?
Not at all.
So
No,
it's not even a talking point.
It's not even a talking point unless it's brought up, and then you always hear about, we're looking at it and what have you.
They fall over themselves a little bit.
They do. They almost look like they got caught in the headlights.
They both do.
You know,
Yeah,
they both did up
Yeah.
there. Yeah, they really did. And you know, again, shame on them. I mean, they're here to represent all the people.
Right.
You know, the one Tyler said, he made a comment that he was not going to allow certain things to take place. And my feelings are, Mr. Politician, whoever you are, I'm not interested in your opinion.
Right.
I'm interested in your representation of the people. Okay? Do you
Right.
have a political affiliation? We know which side you lean on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
with me, I mean, I'm a capitalist at heart. Stuff your money with pockets, your pockets with money. I could care less.
Right.
At the same time, that does not give you permission to give a damn or try to get rid of the people that, quite honestly, you're going to run out of people that are going to serve you your $5 coffee
Yeah.
because they can't live here
They can't
anymore.
afford to live here. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Why
right.
is it important for people to make trips to Tallahassee or to their legislator, writing to them, making the trip? Why is that important?
That's a good question.
I think why Shelley thinks
Does anything get accomplished? I know you've learned a lot how the bills get passed, but does anything get accomplished to you going to them and being like, we have this crisis. What are we going to do? How are we going to work together? Does it help them open their eyes to this crisis?
That's left to be seen. But I think what I do know is not making the trip the same old, same old. You
Right.
can't do the same thing and expect a different
Sure.
result. Okay. And so making the trip, I mean, quite honestly, I'm at a point in my life right now that I'd love to raise hell with them every day on this and several topics. And it's not so much that I just love to raise hell.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, you know, according to science, I've got about 13 years of life in me. And that sounds very strange to say that. But what is my life gonna? What am I gonna leave behind here?
What legacy?
And, yeah, what legacy? And you know, all of us can sit by and say, "Well, it's not my problem. I don't want to take the time. I got better things to do." But if you have children, which I do, this is more for them than for me. Because the good news for me is I can't live another 62 years unless some wild miracle happens. But my kids are going to be here, and I don't think we spend enough time on what that legacy is going to be for our children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people really recognize sometimes when they hear things about homelessness that there's a lot that goes into that. That all they think about typically is the guy on the corner who
Yeah.
They just see
typically
them
isn't
passing
homeless,
by.
you know,
Yeah.
panhandling, and it aggravates them. Look, it aggravates me too. You know, I don't want homeless people slipping in my backyard. I don't want people going through my trash. But you have to stop and ask at some point, why is that happening? Okay. Now you'll have people that say, well, they're drug addicts. They made their bed for themselves and what have you. And that just proves how out of touch certain people are because that's just not how it works.
And what would you guys like the community to send to their legislator to help you guys? Is there anything that we can do to follow up with this? Not just going to Tallahassee, but what can we all do together?
Can you imagine if everybody on social media, which is all of them, okay, you know, sharing a picture of their kitty, you know, I don't know, jumping, falling, whatever. People, you know, that will sit there and send me a nasty gram over something. Can you imagine if each of those people, each one of them, were to physically write their representative and simply ask the question, what is the plan? How is it being implemented? And if there's not a plan, why not? That's all. You don't have to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep doing that, the hope is one of two things will happen. We will either have people that run for office that actually give a damn about the district they live in, okay, rather than just being in a position of power, or the people that are there will start to realize that they were put there to represent all the people.
I think, though, it's our job, though we're not activists by any means. I'm not.
Yeah.
I think it's our job to help people like what we're doing right now be
Yeah.
aware of the crisis.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if people aren't aware of the crisis and all they see is the nuisance guy standing on the street, people aren't going to care about that.
Yeah, no, I think, Shelley, I think you're absolutely right, because I think that, did I ever think that we would be spending the time that we do talking about this? You know, I'm talking at a church this Sunday.
Right.
I did 3 interviews this past week or so with 3 different media outlets on TV. So there's people that are seeing something's going on, and you know, ignorance is you know, let me clarify this. When I say somebody's ignorant, somehow we interchange stupid and ignorant together, and they're 2 different things. Stupid is knowing and still doing the dumb thing. Ignorance is not knowing what you don't know. And so those that are willing to be an adult enough to say, I just don't know, take the time to try to learn. If there's people out there, I don't consider myself an expert. What I do consider myself is someone who's been homeless, that now has worked with the homeless for 20 years. I got a couple ideas on it. And if you don't want to listen to me, there's other people who talk to you.
Right.
But we also have to look as I'm a Christian, and I don't say that because I hate saying when people say I'm a Christian, but so people know where I'm coming from. If we simply believe this stuff, then how we approach these things should probably look like it.
Definitely.
In some way. And nowhere in biblical terms did it said that we give stuff away for free.
Right.
Okay. And so we got to quit enabling people, and we need to be able to give people opportunities. Okay. And if they fail to take those opportunities, then shame on them.
Right.
But right now, there's very few and far between. I mean, if someone asked me while I was in Tallahassee, one of my contacts out of another area that I've gotten to know, and they go, have you ever thought of franchising Matthew's Hope?
Oh, we'll talk about that in another episode.
You know,
with
and I went,
the
ooh.
expansion.
But
No.
but the question was, yeah, what? But
It's not a good thing.
we see that it works.
Right.
Could it work other places?
Right.
And I'm going, it absolutely could work. But people don't want to make the investment in it, and that's the
Gotcha.
challenge.
And there's just
Gotcha.
not enough of you and I to go around.
Right? Yeah, it'd be great if we could clone ourselves that way,
Right.
and that'd be interesting, because right now we're already trying to do that with just 2 campuses.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the government. How is Matthew's Hope funded? Is it government funded, you funded, community funded? How does Matthew's Hope run? Because you guys do a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of money, I'm sure, to do that.
We are mainly funded by the community.
Okay.
Donations, physical donations, as well as monetary donations were mainly funded by the community. We did in Orange County take a grant,
Okay.
which has been very interesting to watch us walk through it and learn. And it's, I don't want to, I want to be kind about it, but we've not had any surprises really. We've had a lot of frustrations by the whole thing. We do more reporting than we are doing helping, and that's frustrating.
That's taken
Yeah.
away.
I think, and again, it's you can't give something you don't have.
Right.
If you don't have shelter, you can't give shelter.
Right.
So a lot of the funding is designed. The good news is it's helping us, giving us some funding to identify certain aspects of homelessness and what those needs would need to, how they would need to be met, and what wraparound services those people would need.
Okay.
The other side of it is HUD has actually cut funding on housing going into the new year. And so they're spending more to find out who they are, less than actually doing something, though I disagree with how HUD does it. I think that there is a place that, I'm not saying we're perfect or we do it all right. What I am saying is that I think there's a place where you bring the private and public sector together with accountability.
Sure.
And you also look at those folks that truly cannot care for themselves. And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, they see them on the streets and they just assume they're lazy or they're this or that. If they got to know them, they realize there's a whole lot either going on or not going on in some cases with that individual. So, almost, our budget coming into this year, what we take from that taxpayer money, it's not government money, it's our money. We're just choosing to use it in a wiser way. It still comes out to probably 7% of our budget. About 65% of what we raise every year is from the general public, the men and women that have realized that what we have is working and want to be a part of that in some small way.
Wow.
And then after that, it's businesses and and then a small percentage of it comes from churches,
All right.
which I always find odd.
Well, thank you guys for another insightful episode. Thank you guys for watching. Another way for us all to help is to like, share, comment, subscribe to this podcast. Go to Matthew's Hope social media. They have Instagram, they have Facebook. Share it with your friends, share it with your kids, with your pastor, with whoever you work with, because this is really important that we as a community come together to help other people.
And Tracy, if I can say before we close, and I know you got your closing you do, but I want to encourage people to send us their questions.
That's good.
And if they have things they wonder about, there's no topic for us that we won't touch. You may not always like our answer. In fact, I guarantee that often you may not like our answer, but we'll give you the honest answer, and we'll try to explain why the answer is what it is. So that I think that's real important is that, share that with us on social media,
Definitely.
write to us directly. My email address is scott.ballou@gmail.com. I will look at those personally. We are happy to do that, and we think the conversation needs to happen.
Let's get educated, because I know when I first met you, I was ignorant and thinking I'm helping people, but really hurting them and hurting myself. So
and
come
we
together.
can still learn.
Of
Yeah,
course,
for
we all
sure.
can.
For
So
sure.
I'm listening. If you
Yep.
got something, let me know. We can
Definitely.
still learn.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next episode.